What's for dinner? Oh man, it's empty again. No, really guys. I just want to show you how you can get away with small meals that are very delicious and healthy with some fermented food. Here we have our garden hydroponically grown pickles. They're actually cucumbers and salt brine. So pickles are basically cucumbers dropped in vinegar. However, when you ferment foods, you're basically putting those cucumbers down in a salt solution of brine, and that allows the lactobacillus that's naturally there to grow while the pathogenic bacteria die. So after 4 to 7 days, you'll get a nice cloudy, briny solution that's full of good, healthy lacto-probiotics called lactobacillus. Here's the same thing with zucchini. If you leave it for several days on your countertop, let the CO2 out as the zucchini ferments. Oh boy, you can put it in the fridge and leave it in there for weeks. And you can wrap them in some cheese, some ham, some lunch meat. Oh my gosh, they just make great little wraps. Mustard on it, some pickle relish, whatever you choose. Spicy mustard, oh my, that's gonna be good. Even some onions, little slices of onions. You don't have to look very far and you've got a meal. For an appetizer, I've got my trusty old fruit drink. Here's one of these left from yesterday. It's full of that frozen lettuce, some tomatoes from my garden, cucumbers, some cashews that of course weren't mine, but added in, and some other goodness that's mixed in there. And that's going to be a yummy appetizer. All right, guys, I just want to encourage you to not throw your vegetables out. I know you're going to have a big bounty harvest, and you're going to have to find something to do with them. Learn about fermenting. Let me show you how I make this little meal for me now, and then I'll do another segment here on this video on how I actually put a ferment together with fresh vegetables from my hydroponic garden. Oh, you can just slurp that down on a hot day. It's nice and cool. Oh my gosh, it's almost like the vitamins just go right into your bloodstream. This fruit drink was actually made with half of this. I made 2 big jars, and I threw this in as my liquid instead of just going with water. What is it? It's fermented milk, or kefir. Basically, you put a little bit of kefir in, a couple tablespoons, and then you pour the whole milk in. I use full fat milk. And then I let it sit, just like I would my fermented vegetables, a few days, and let all those bacteria mix into the milk, and you end up with this kind of thick, curdy-like solution. What I'm doing is making my own kefir, and I'm using a commercial product to make it. Organic whole milk plain kefir. Borrow a couple tablespoons or just a little small cup of it, and then I put it into my whole milk here. I use full fat milk. A few days later, I have a nice, rich, creamy kefir that is full of those beautiful lactobacilli, and it tastes so good mixed into the fruit drink, even better than regular milk, of course. Better than cream. It's just got a nice, tart, yummy taste all of its own. So fermented foods are something I definitely want to pass on to you guys as very important, and I'm going to show you how to make these zucchini slices and pickles here in a few minutes. Let's get to eating a couple of these first. Sometimes I'm on my own and I have to find something to eat, and typical guy thing, I'm always trying to think, how can I do this quickly? So again, I got my fermented pickles and zucchini spears, and I just laid out some cold cuts, Black Forest ham, yum. Slice each. That's going to make my outer wrap. And what I'm going to do is drop a slice of cheese in each one of these, and I'm going to take some of my hydroponic tomatoes, slice those up, drop them as condiments around the side, and the main dish is going to be either a zucchini spear that'll wrap up in the middle, nice tart, bitter taste. Oh, there we go. Or a nice big cucumber spear. Again, fermented, not in vinegar. I've got my zucchini in the middle, got my ham wrap on the outside. I was able to find a little bit of lettuce left in the fridge for this one to wrap it around the outside of the ham. We'll wrap it like that. And then I've got a couple tomatoes, really sweet tomatoes from my garden. I love those. They're way better than the store-bought ones, if you ask me. I got some raw onion. You may not like that. I've got the Swiss cheese. And I'm going to put some black pepper on here now. And then I'm going to go out in my garden. I have a little herb garden right here on the patio. And I'm going to grab some chives, a little tiny bit of basil, and some parsley. And we've got beautiful little wraps here that I can eat as a bachelor tonight, since I'm the only one here. And this is going to be yummy. Might even have a little bit of wine with it. What the heck? Oh my gosh, that didn't take long. Got some basil leaves here, some chive, and some parsley. That'll just add a little extra freshness to this. Let me wash that off. I'm just going to take the scissors and gently cut this mass of fresh greens, just like I would, try to salt and pepper, season something. I'm just going to try to sprinkle this on top. Granulated garlic, pepper, engaged, as you see, and I did use that spicy mustard. Now it's time for the greens. Okay. Nice thing about that is, you basically go from garden right onto your dish. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it sure tastes good. All right, guys, I'm going to enjoy these. and then I'll get back to you and we'll show you how I ferment. Okay, let me show you how ridiculously simple this is. All you do is take 4 cups of water and put 2 tablespoons of a coarse salt that has no iodine in it, such as sea salt, Himalayan salt, or a rock type salt that's for canning, but no iodine. And then you mix it together, and that's your brine solution that you pour over your vegetables. Usually your ferments are ready in about 7 days at room temperature. If your kitchen's warm, it may be quicker, like around 4 days. If it's cloudy and it's bubbled and it looks fermented, you might want to open it up on day 2 to 4 and do a taste test. Maybe it's ready to go. And you can put it in the refrigerator and terminate the fermentation process. And wash them real good. Okay, I'm going to start with those because I think those are the longer ones that'll probably fit as spears all the way down those big mason jars. Not exactly the same length, but pretty close. I'm just going to chop off the tips here. Okay, now I kind of like those English cucumbers. They're long and thin, but these happen to be a pickling cucumber. I believe it's Boston cucumbers or maybe the Rhinish type cucumber. They're for pickling. I'm going to go ahead and put these into the jar and just see if they fit. Yeah, they seem to fit pretty nicely, so I'm going to keep going, but I think I'm going to grab a little dill I have in the garden outside, maybe a little basil, throw some garlic or garlic salt in there, maybe a few onion slice wedges, and spice it up just a little bit. What I've done is I've just kind of put it upside down, like a tree upside down, because that way I figure if I stuff that stuff in, it's less likely to rise to the top once I have everything submerged in the brine. You don't want things floating to the top and getting air because that's where the problem will occur. You want everything underwater. You don't want any aerobic environment, you just want an anaerobic environment so you don't get any contaminant bacteria or mold growing on the tips of your vegetables or other herbs. So let's stuff it in as tight as we can and put some type of weight or lid on top of that after we fill it with brine. Okay guys, I don't think I can get much more in there, but you want to use the big pieces first because you're going to have just little gaps left in the end to stuff the little pieces in. Sometimes you just have to give them a haircut because you just can't get it in any further. You can see here's a little pocket. I wish I didn't have that. Try to avoid pockets. Here's a little more room I have, so I'm going to try to stuff every little nook and cranny the best I can. This is about as tight and uniform as I can get it. They will shrink and dehydrate once you put the salt in there, but I still have quite a bit of cucumbers left, so I'm going to focus on the smaller ones, but I'm not going to cut them. I'm just going to try to put them in whole. Okay, it's always a challenge stuffing these things in. Don't be afraid to get a thin spoon or something to just push them way down in there. Don't cut them into little pieces. You know, you don't want them floating to the surface, all those little pieces. Just leave them intact, those whole herbs. There we go. One thing I almost forgot is to tell you, it's probably better if you have some kind of cap that you push that down on. That way, you really don't let it float up. As they dehydrate, they'll shrink a little bit, so you just put a silicone cap or... I had a plastic, let me show you. Cap from a mustard jar. Of course, you want to throw that in the dishwasher or use hot water and sterilize it. But something that lays on top of these things, and you can just kind of use it when you put the lid on to push everything down tight. Eventually, I hope to get some glass weights that you can put in there. Try a couple of those and see how they compare. I've used all sorts of things. My favorite one recently is just these because I have them. They're basically silicone lids that snap onto a jar like this to use like a storage container in your refrigerator. But if you can grab a couple of those and put them like this and smash it down and then pour a little salt on. That's why a lot of times you don't want this extra piece on top. Just doesn't let the lid sit as nice and neat. So try to leave at least a centimeter or so, depending on what type of lid you're going to be putting on the top. And when you put it on, tighten it and then kind of go back just a little bit so that you can have just a little play that not enough that the bugs will get in, the fruit flies, but enough that you can let some of that CO2 gas come out that's going to rise over the next couple days. It will become nice and cloudy once that fermentation process really kicks in. I'm just going to make one more of these, but I'm going to get some zucchinis and do that with zucchini and make zucchini spears. All right, I'm back. I just picked these right off the vine, so I'm going to snip off these end pieces and cut them into slices to hopefully pieces that'll just fit in one of these ball jars. Okay, that's just about a perfect fit for that in terms of height. Now let me work on getting these in there. I'm going to cut that probably about here. Try to do the same. Go ahead and put the fat end on the bottom. That way it's just easier later when you try to stuff more from the top. There's a little more room on the top. And then just take your knife here and just give it a haircut so it fits perfect with the other ones. So we're stuffed. Okay, I had to put just a little more brine together, another cupful. And this is ready to go. How easy is that? We'll just put that over here with the rest of them. And we'll push them back in that corner behind the water kettle and just kind of let them hide back there. We'll just get a little date on top of there so I remember when I made them. 3 or 4 days, you could eat them, but I probably will let them go a little more, between 4 and 7 days. I'll maybe do a taste test on day 4 or 5, and if they're nice and salty and sour and they taste great, I'll put them in the fridge. At that point, I'll go ahead and terminate their fermentation by putting them in the fridge, which they should be able to last a good several months, honestly, but I'll eat them within a few weeks, a couple weeks at the most. If you see some very light cream color yeast on the top, that's probably Kahm yeast. That usually occurs at about day 3 or 4 if you see it. Hopefully you won't, but if you do, just take a spoon and just kind of scrape it off. Or you can even take a paper towel and just kind of gently wipe it off the top there. If you start to see something that looks like mold, gray or black color, that's bad. You don't want that. You throw the batch out. If it smells bad or you take that first bite, don't swallow it. If it tastes horrible, spit it out. If something's wrong, it should taste really good like a pickle. You don't want to eat moldy pickles. So if you did something wrong or got contaminated, I've not had trouble yet. I've made several batches of these, but there's a lot of great videos online that actually show the Kahm yeast and the mold and the differences. So do check that out. This is really easy, extremely healthy probiotics. Great way to use up your extra cucumbers and zucchini spears. I'm going to turn my attention to doing this with tomatoes as all my tomatoes start maturing. It's just a lot of fun. So experiment, have fun, and enjoy. Enjoy the fruits of your labor. Hey, you guys. Well, I hope you have a great day, and thanks for watching, and please remember to subscribe. Talk to you later. Bye.